Good morning, everyone. We are starting today the Torah portion of Vayeshev. It begins with Yaakov desire to seed and live in tranquility. He had suffered tremendously for 20 years from his father-in-law, the most painful experience a man can go through. And then he suffers from his brother about to destroy him. Later on, Dinah is being raped and abused. After that, Shimon and Levi kill an entire city, and he has to defend that his family. So you can imagine kind of a painful life he's suffering. But he comes back to his father's neighborhood in Hebron, and he wants to relax. And God says, no, 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 no. In this world, you got to walk. When you're at a job site, you cannot take a break. You have got to continue. So God is going to bring him another challenge, actually the most painful challenge. By the way, I forgot to mention that his wife died also while, and now his son is going to disappear, and for 22 years he will be mourning the loss of his son. In this week's Torah portion, we begin that journey of challenge that Yaakov is facing, but we are going to begin with dreams. Yosef is dreaming dreams, and there is an interaction between him and his brothers, him and his father. The brothers hated him, and they interpreted the dreams the way he shared it with them to me as if he is to say, "I'm the leader, and you are my subjects." And yeah, so they hated him even further. It doesn't stop him. He's bringing a second dream. And then Yaakov is also rebukes him publicly in front of the brothers about the dreams that he's sharing. Let's see the insight, so to say, the Kabbalistic understanding and how it is actually something that applies to us every day. I'm starting on selections of Likutei Sichos, the second talk, page 476. He told the dream to his father and brothers. We're talking about the second dream when he sees the sun, moon, and 11 stars are bowing down to him. He shows the dream now with to the brothers and the father, and the Torah continue. And his father rebuked him, and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamt? Will we, I, your mother, and your brothers, to come to prostrate ourselves to the ground before you?" He says to him, "How dare you share that? What do you think about sharing that dream? You think that me and your mother, your father and mother, and the your brothers, my sons, will prostrate before you?" Rashi cites the words, "will we come?" and explains that Yaakov asked Yosef the following: "Isn't your mother Rachel already dead?" However, Yaakov did not know that the matter refers to Bilhah, who had raised Yosef as if she were his mother. He's dreaming not just 11 stars, but also sun and moon. Sun and moon referring to father and mother. And Yaakov says to him, "How is it possible to say that your father and mother are going to prostrate before you? Your mother is in the grave." And Rashi says, but he didn't realize that it refers to Bilhah. Bilhah was the maid, the concubine, the maid of Rachel. And when Rachel died, Yosef was very young. Must have been he was 8 years old. She raised him for the rest of his childhood, and therefore she's considered like his mother. And therefore what he saw in the dream referred to Bilhah and not to Rachel, and therefore there is no difficulty in interpreting the dream. Rashi goes on to say, our rabbis explain Yaakov's words differently. Now Rashi comes up with a second interpretation, deriving from here that there is no dream without meaningless components. Yaakov was aware of this concept. However, he intended to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons to prevent envy of Yosef. Therefore, he told them, "Will we come?" He was implying, just as it is impossible for your mother to come, so too it is the rest of the dream meaningless. Rashi says, our rabbis tell us that no dream which is very meaningful dream that comes to tell us the future, it comes without a little bit content that is untrue, that is, so to say, false or fake. In this case, what was the fake part? What was the false part? That your mother will bow down to you because the mother is not alive. However, Yaakov did not share this idea with the brothers. He wanted to get their heart away from jealousy, and therefore he rebuked Yosef, saying to him, just like as is your mother not alive and cannot bow, so is the entire dream not true. However, he himself knew that that part may be the part that is false, and therefore the dream is correct. This is Rashi. So again, Rashi gave us two explanations. One, when his father rebukes him about his mother not being alive, it can refer to Bilhah, who raised him like a mother. In the second one, Yaakov knew full well that it is incorrect, and every dream will have a false part, and that might be the one. However, he rebuked Yosef to make the brothers not stop hating him and get jealous. This interpretation of Rashi's words follows the understanding of several super commentaries on Rashi that explain that Rashi is offering two different interpretations of the verse. In other words, many super commentators, rabbis who devoted their entire life and all their rising to explain Rashi, they explain that Rashi is actually bringing two separate interpretations. Number one, Yaakov did not know that the matter referred to Bilam. This interpretation is based on the understanding that the verse is in Bereshit Rabbah. In other words, the first one is he did not know that there is mother refers to Bilhah, and therefore he says if Rachel is not alive, the entire dream is not correct. The second one, B, the interpretation of our rabbis that there is no dream without meaningless components, which is based on the words of the Talmud. The Talmud tells us that Yaakov knew full well the dream will be interpreted, except to make the brother stop being jealous. He kind of rebuked him that there is a part to the dream that is incorrect, but he knew that there must be a part, and that's the part. In other words, they are, so to say, seemingly are at odds with each other, the two interpretations. The first one, he says the dream cannot be true because your mom is not alive. The second one, he knew this dream is true, but he said that in a rebuke so that the brothers should stop envy. On the surface of the Rebbe, according to the first interpretation, Yaakov thought the dream was meaningless because it implies that Yosef's mother would also bow down to him. Yaakov erred in this judgment because he did not know that the matter refers to Bilhah. By contrast, according to our rabbi's interpretation, Yaakov knew that the dream was true and prophetic in nature. The fact that it included Yosef's mother bowing down did not detract from this prophetic import, because even though, according to our rabbi's interpretation, it is impossible to say that the matter referred to Bilhah, because there is no dream without meaningless components. And his mother's bowing is one such component. In other words, according to the second interpretation, when he dreamed that the moon is bowing down, referring to his mother, it's not referring to Bilhah, it refers to Rachel, except that part is incorrect, it's a false part. So you have, so to say, two interpretations that are not explaining, that are not the same. Each one is different from the other.
Nevertheless, Rabbi, under any interpretation, the brothers did not like him at all, no matter what.
It didn't change their mind. That's correct, yes. But we need to understand Yaakov's train of thought. What did he say to him, rebuking him publicly? And that's the discussion. Rashi, in other words, according to the first interpretation, Yaakov felt that this dream is no prophetic vision, because the mother is dead, and therefore it cannot be a real dream. So he dismissed the dream. According to the second interpretation, he knew full well that there must be a false part, a false component here, and that's that part. And therefore he knew that it's going to happen, except that he rebuked them just to remove the envy from the brothers.
You could also misinterpret to think that Rachel would rise from the grave prophetically to bow down.
No one says that. And I can understand why, because he's referring to a dream of people who are still alive. Otherwise, there is no way you can doubt any dream. Rashi concludes his commentary in line with his second interpretation, explaining that Yaakov intended to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons, so they would not envy Yosef. Therefore, he said to Yosef, will we come? He was saying, just as it is impossible for your mother to come, so too is the rest of the dream meaningless. That is, although Yaakov knew that the dream was true and prophetic, he made this statement to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons. So Rashi concludes his interpretation based on the second one, not the first. However, this interpretation of Rashi's words appears forced, for the narrative continues, his father awaited the matter, which Rashi interprets to mean he awaited and looked forward to the dream's fulfillment. In contrast to Rashi's first explanation, according to this understanding, Scripture explicitly states that Yaakov was certain that Yosef's dream was true and would surely be fulfilled, but he did not know when, and he so was awaiting and looking forward to its fulfillment. Says the Rebbe, if it's two exclusive interpretations, when the first interpretation to say that Yaakov believed that it's a false dream, and the second interpretation he believes it's a true dream and prophetic dream, then Yaakov, the Torah concludes, Ve'aviv shamar et hadavar. His father kept awaiting and looked forward to it being fulfilled, that he and his family will bow down to Yosef. According to verse interpretation, he didn't look forward to it because he felt that it's incorrect, that it's false. So therefore, the Rebbe is going to say to us that there must be one interpretation. It's not exclusive. It's not two separate interpretations. Yes, Dick.
I need a clarification in the timeline. Was this after Yosef told his brothers to go back to Canaan and bring their father to Mitzrayim? Is this when he's the vicer?
He's now a young boy. He's 17 years old. Oh, you're asking when the bowing down took place? Yeah, when Yaakov came back and the family. He had two dreams because they ended up bowing down to him twice. And one time it says that he bowed down. The first dream is only gathering sheaves in the field. And the sheaves bow down to my sheaf of corn. There is no father and mother there. There's only 11 sheaves. Because the first time they met Yosef, they bow down without father and mother. The second dream, when you have sun, moon, and stars, it refers to the time where father, mother bow down together with the children. I want to stick to the content because any moment we don't. Sheaves, aluma. Aluma.
Also, even when the father comes down,
he brings his wife. He brings Bilhah with him.
Doesn't say anything about Bilhah bowing down. It just says Yaakov came to see.
Did Bilhah come down the second time?
What?
Bilhah.
So first, according to the second interpretation, Bilhah does not need to bow down because it's a false component in the dream that the moon is bowing down.
Okay.
Second, I do believe Bilhah bowed down to her. Where do you see Yaakov bow down to him? Anybody knows?
Well, when they meet each other and they kiss each other and so on.
There's no bowing down? No. Before Yaakov dies, Yosef comes to visit him and he bows down to him.
Because he's the prime minister, not because he's his son.
Correct. But he did bow down to him. On this basis, says the Rebbe, it is possible to say that Rashi is not citing two separate interpretations. Rather, his entire statement should be seen as one explanation. It's not two exclusive opposite interpretations, but everything Rashi is bringing is one, and that's how the Rebbe explained that. This is reflected in the precise wording Rashi uses. Our rabbis derived from here. Such wording does not imply that he is beginning a new interpretation, rather continuing his previous explanation. And here is how the Rebbe explains that. Rashi does not write as he does in other instances when he cites two interpretations an alternative understanding, and our rabbis interpreted, or the like. Rashi just says, and our rabbis learned from here, which means Rashi should thus be understood as saying, since Yaakov did not know that the matter referred to Bilhah, yet was certain that Yosef's dream would be fulfilled, as the narrative continues, that his father awaited the matter. Our rabbis derive from here that there is no dream without meaningless components. The Rebbe says that the rabbi, when Rashi brings the rabbis about that there is no dream without a false component, is derived from this case. From here we gain that idea. Before this story, there was nobody knew about it. In other words, it's one interpretation. Yaakov rebukes Yosef. He says, how is it possible the dream is true? Your mother is dead. He did not know it refers to Bilhah. The rabbis come and says, from here you learn that a dream will not be true dream, prophetic dream, unless one part is false. How do we know? Because we read that the moon is bowing down, and the moon did not bow down to him. His father knew that the dream is going to be fulfilled. How? We don't know. But he felt that it's going to happen. It's a prophecy. However, he rebuked Yosef by saying to him, something is wrong with that dream. He did not understand that there must be something wrong in the dream. From here, the rabbis derived that a good dream will always have something wrong with it. That's the Rebbe. The Rebbe will go much deeper into understanding, but this is, so to say, an introduction to the idea that the Kabbalah is going to teach us. We continue on page 479. This was Yaakov's conception, that even though the dream as a whole will be fulfilled, this particular point, that Yosef's mother would bow down to him, was one of its meaningless components. In truth, however, this was not a meaningless component, because the matter referred to Bilhah. Says the Rebbe, Yaakov understood that this must be a false component in the dream. But in truth, says Rashi, there was no false component, because it referred to Bilhah, not to Rachel. Bilhah raised Yosef, so she is considered like a mother. By the way, it teaches us a very deep lesson, and that is when someone adopts a child, or someone raises a child, by law, by Jewish law, they are considered the legal mother or father. We have a case here in our community where a mother was married to another man when the child was a year old, and the father that she married to is a Levite. And the real father, unfortunately, abandoned the children. The son, the man, wanted to honor the adoptive father because he gave him a good life. He was kind and caring. And when that man died, he wanted to sit Shiva. Sitting Shiva is many mitzvot you cannot be fulfilling. Jewish law will dictate, because he raised him, he's considered like his father, and therefore he was able to sit Shiva. And he's named after him when he's called to the Torah. When we call him to the Torah until today, after the adoptive father. However, to become a Levi, that line we didn't cross. In other words, the real natural father is not a Levi, so the son. He's a part of our community. So in other words, adopting a child is considered like the father or mother. And that's where we see it here, that the Torah, the dream is sun and moon, and referred to Bilhah, even though Bilhah raised him only when he was 8 years old. Let's continue. Rashi then concludes, explaining that although Yaakov knew that the dream would be fulfilled as a whole, he still said, will we come to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons? They did not know that there is no dream without meaningless components, and therefore it was possible to tell them, just as it is impossible for your mother to come and bow down to you, so too is the rest of the dream meaningless. In this way, the brothers would not envy Yosef. Rashi goes on to say, so in other words, according to the Rebbe, it's not two interpretations, it's one. One is Yaakov did not understand how the moon can bow down, the mother is not alive. But he knew the dream to be true. The rabbis derive from here that no true prophetic dream can be brought into a human unless a part of it is false. However, his father, who kept waiting, because he knew it's going to be fulfilled. The children did not know that if a component is false, the rest of the dream is true. They felt, they knew, they understood that if one part is false, the rest of it is false. And therefore, he was sharing with the brothers, just like your mother is not alive, so the rest of the dream is not going to be fulfilled, to remove envy from their hearts. But he looked forward, Ve'aviv shamar et hadavar, he looked forward to it. Now the rabbi is going to deal with the idea of looking forward to bowing down to your son, which seemingly is not something you look forward. It says, Ve'aviv shamar et hadavar, says Rashi, mechake matai yavo. He's looking forward to the day it will arrive. And we need to understand what it means.
Only in Jewish cases.
What do you mean?
Well, Paro had a dream. There was nothing. There was no meaningless component.
A lot of meaningless components.
What he dreamt was always
was a lot of falls. So they came from the water. Cows coming out from the middle of the water.
It's not meaningless. It had an impact.
Well, there were many components that were false. Many components of the false. In Paro's dream. Every dream must have a false component. Regardless.
So did Bila come to Yosef to bow down in the end, or it wasn't?
So he asked this question, and I responded that according to the first the first idea, she didn't need to come to bow down because it was a false part, according to the second one. In other words, that part don't have to be fulfilled.
Okay, Yosef disappears for 22 years. Is this kind of a way that he was told in advance that maybe this was going to happen? This hadn't happened yet, so now he has this sense that this is going to happen. Yosef's gone, but he knows that's going to happen because he knows the true dream.
So you're looking at it from a bird's eye view,
right?
Looking at the future from the now.
Right.
However, in real life, when they brought to him the coat Yosef wore, stained in blood, he assumed, and everybody accepted it, that he's dead.
Right.
So the dream is gone.
But Rabbi,
the dream is gone. By the way, nobody is talking about later on when it's been fulfilled. When the brothers bowed down, they didn't know. But even after they revealed, they never go back and say, oh, now we understand his dreams. We don't see it in the text.
he really deep down, maybe through Ruach HaKodesh, knew that couldn't possibly be dead because he mourned for 22 years, and God allows us to forget things, and he never forgot all those 22 years.
So that's the medrash. The reason he refused to stop mourning is because only if someone who is actually dead, we are able to move on with life after 7 days or 30 days. Here, Yosef wasn't dead, and therefore he mourned after him continuously. However, he did not know about it. He felt that Yosef Yosef looked like his mother, and therefore it was the choice of his children. No one was his beloved. You see that he spoiled them. You see that he bought him outfits. So when he lost them, it really destroyed him, and he felt that the reason he's mourning is for the true loss. He didn't know what we know now. It's not, it's like Monday morning football. Quarterback Monday. If in truth, we are page 480. If in truth the matter referred to Bilhah, additional clarification is necessary. What are the meaningless components of Yosef's dream? The rabbi says from here you learn that there are false component in a dream. But I don't understand. Rashi told us there is no false component. The component of the moon was misunderstood by Yaakov. It's not Rachel, it's Bilhah. So what's wrong? What is the false component? How the rabbi derived that there must be a dream, a false component?
Everybody should get that.
Why do they bow?
Because he is the leader. He's the king, and they are his subjects. He saved them. God wanted it to be that way. Says the Rebbe, the question can be resolved by prefacing the explanation of another puzzling dimension of the overall narrative. There is another component that is kind of puzzling. Seemingly, Rashi's interpretation of the verse, his father awaited the matter, that Yaakov awaited and looked forward to its fulfillment, implies that this is something he cherished, desired, and looked forward to happening as soon as possible. What would a father desire in that his son would reign and he would bow down on the ground in front of him? It says, that he looked forward to it happening. What do you mean? Looking forward to bowing down to your son? True, the adage, a man will be jealous of anyone except his son and his student, says the Torah, is easily understandable. The Torah tells us that a person is jealous of anyone that are of the same similar talent. For example, a jeweler will be jealous of other jewelers. A mother with children will be jealous of other mothers with children. A teacher will be jealous of other teachers, but there are two exceptions. A teacher will never be jealous of his students exceeding him. He's always going to be proud of the students. And a father or mother will always be proud of their children, even if they excel in the same type of activity. So I, or anyone who is blessed with children and their children are better than their own children, the grandchildren, always be very proud. The same is if that child became a rabbi, or I am an investor and my son is an investor and he does better than me, I'll never get jealous. So children and students, we are never getting jealous. In other words, Yaakov, when hearing that his son is going to be above him, he's going to be the king, it does not cause him to be jealous or have an ill feeling of it. However, says the Rabbi, this merely teaches that a person will not become jealous when his son or his student attain a greater degree of prominence than he. However, it is not logical to assume that a father would anticipate his sons ruling over him, in addition to his son's elder brothers, in a matter that they would all be the son's servants and bow down to the ground before him. It's impossible for a father to look forward that one of his sons, it's not the oldest son, it's number 7 or 8 sons, he's going to rule over, they will bow down as servants, including the father. Who is going to look forward to it? There are commentaries who explain Rashi's intent based on the statement of the Medrash that Yaakov, our patriarch, thought that the resurrection of the dead would take place in his time. That is, Yaakov was awaiting and looking forward to the dream's fulfillment, not because through it Yosef would reign and all will bow down to him, for in truth that would bring Yaakov much discomfort, but because he thought that the resurrection of the dead will take place at this time. Accordingly, he was looking forward to the time when Rachel, Yosef's mother, would be resurrected. Here is Harry's point of view. The commentator says, why did Yaakov look forward to it? Not that he is going to bow down to him, to bow down to your son. It's not something looking forward to it. However, the reason is because he felt that maybe Rachel, his mother, is going to come back alive. Oh, there is going to be a resurrection of the dead. And therefore, he looked forward to it. Firstly, it is very difficult to explain Rashi's words in this matter. The Rebbe says it doesn't make sense in Rashi. It's a good drash, but it doesn't make sense in Rashi. For they do not contain any hint to the concept stated in the Medrash, that Yaakov thought the resurrection of the dead would take place in this time. First question is, where does Rashi is talking about resurrection of the dead? There is no place for it. So it's not in the simple text. It doesn't appear in Rashi. Furthermore, the straightforward meaning of his father awaited the matter is that he was looking forward to the fulfillment of the general theme of the dream, and not for an incidental matter that would occur with the dream's fulfillment. In other words, the resurrection of the dead is a side issue, that his mother is going to come back. But the father, it says, waited the dream to be fulfilled, is the main theme of the dream. The main theme of the dream is bowing down. In particular, this is true since according to this understanding, the general import of Yosef's dream did not contain anything special that Yaakov would anticipate. He would only be looking forward to the incidental element of the dream. You say he's looking forward to it. It's not, if it's about the resurrection of the dead, it should say Yaakov awaited his wife to come back alive. But the fact that he is awaiting the fulfillment of the dream refers to actually the main theme of the dream, which is bowing down. Furthermore, based on the explanation given above, Rashi's intent is the direct opposite. Yaakov thought this element of the dream, that Yosef's mother would bow down to him, was one of its meaningless components. Says the Rebbe, I don't understand. According to the Medrash, the only reason Yaakov is looking forward to it is because Rachel is going to come back alive. But according to Rashi's interpretation, this was the false component of the dream. In other words, he knew that it is impossible for Rachel to bow down, which is 180 degrees opposite of the idea of the Medrash, that's the reason he awaited. So therefore, you cannot put the Medrash in Rashi. You cannot make it in a simple text. A, you're talking the main theme is nothing to do with resurrection. B, Rashi says that the reason he doubted or spoke publicly against the dream is because there was a false component to the dream. What's a false component? That Rachel is not alive. According to Medrash, this is the only reason he's looking forward. Based on the above, the question remains, what is the great import of this dream that Yaakov was anticipating? So that's a second main question. What's the big deal that Yaakov was anticipating? He's anticipating bowing down to his son and his brothers, other sons bowing down to a king. It is possible to say that a resolution can be reached through an analysis of the wording of our rabbis who derived from here that there is no dream without meaningless component. Similarly, based on the above explanation, there is only one element of the dream that was not true, that Yosef's mother would bow down to him. If so, the rabbis should have spoken in the singular. There is no dream without a meaningless component, not components. It appears that they were precise in using the plural components. The Rebbe says, let's go back. Our rabbi says that there ain't chalom belo dvarim betelim, not belo davar batel. Dvarim meaning components. In other words, until now we understood that the false component is Rachel bowing down. But Rashi is not using singular, it says dvarim, meaning meaningless components. Components refer to more than one. Yaakov thought there were several meaningless components in Yosef's dream. He thought that just as the component that Yosef's mother would bow down to him was meaningless because Yaakov did not know that the matter refers to Bila, so too he thought that the prophecy that he would bow down to the ground before Yosef was meaningless. The true meaning of the dream was only that Yosef would ascend to a lofty position to the extent that he would rule over all his brothers, but not that he would also rule over his father, who would prostrate himself on the ground before Yosef. Says the Rebbe, we can explain the following. Yaakov felt that every dream must have some false components, few components that are false. One, Rachel is not alive. Two, Yaakov is not going to bow down. He felt that Yosef is dreaming about leadership, that he's going to be the king, and the brothers will bow down, but not necessarily Yaakov himself. Now we understand why it makes sense that he's looking forward to it, because his son is going to become a king. It is possible to say that this was indeed what happened, that Yaakov's bowing down to Yosef was one of the meaningless components of the dream, for Yaakov did not prostrate himself on the ground before Yosef. All that happened was Israel bowed down in the hand of the bed. The only time Yaakov bowed down is when he's about to die and Yosef enters. It says, Vayishtachu Israel al rosh hamita. He bowed down to the head of the bed. He didn't prostrate to the ground. In the dream, the sun, moon, and stars are bowing down to the ground. And that is a false component. Has actually happened. This part did not actually happen the way we're reading. On this basis, it is also possible to explain the position of the wording Rashi uses. Just as it is impossible for you, mother, to come, so too it is the rest of the dream meaningless. He did not say the dream is entirely meaningless. The words Yaakov spoke, although although chosen to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons, also alludes to Yaakov's true conception of the dream. That is, Yaakov thought that although the fundamental message of the dream would come true, it contained several points that would not necessarily come true. Indeed, in other words, the Rabbi says to us, the Rebbe says, Yaakov, when he rebukes Yosef, he says, Avo navo ani ve'imcha ve'achecha. He is referring to the false components. A mother, be father, are we going to bow down to you? Indeed, because there is no dream without meaningless components, it was necessary that it contains several such components. Therefore, Yaakov used the wording that would not include any falsehood. It is obvious that although Yaakov desired to remove the matter from the hearts of his sons, he would not make false statements for that purpose. In other words, Yaakov is not going to lie. Yaakov, when he rebukes Yosef, he just points out some components that are actually false. And the brothers do not know that it is a needed component to make a dream true. Thus, by saying, so too is the rest of the dream meaningless, Yaakov was telling the truth. He meant that the dream contained other meaningless components in addition to the particular point that Yosef's mother would come. Nevertheless, his sons were led to understand from his words that the dream was entirely meaningless.
So he deliberately misled.
Huh?
He deliberately misled.
Right.
Yes.
To remove envy from their heart.
What was that last thing? You removed what?
Envy.
Envy.
I'm going to share, we're running out of time. I'm going to share verbally the rest of the discussion. The Rebbe is asking a simple question. After all, Yaakov looked forward for it to happen. Now, he knew his mother, the mother, Rachel, is not here. He knew seemingly that Yaakov is not going to bow down to him. So what is he looking forward? To him reign over his brothers. What kind of a looking forward for the brothers to bow down to Yosef? Says the Rebbe that he knew that the Jewish people, and it's in the text, he knew that the Jewish people are going to be sent to Egypt. And he felt if Yosef is going to be a king, the only place he can be a king is as a ruler of the universe, which is Egypt at the time. And therefore, if they come down to bow down to him, it will be fulfilled in a nice way. Instead of being sold as slaves to Egypt, they will come as the children, as the brothers of the king. Says the Rebbe. The Rebbe is asking two questions. A, he was looking forward to it. In other words, he was expecting it to happen immediately. Why Yaakov is waiting for it to happen immediately? If they have to fulfill the promise that they will be enslaved in Egypt, why should it happen now? It can happen in 50 years after his life. And number two, it doesn't say, Yaakov was looking forward for the sons to bow down, not to be his servants. And bowing down to your brother, to his son, is not necessarily part of the dream. It's a separate component altogether, and he's looking forward to bowing down to Yosef. This part, the whole promise of Brit Ben Abtarim in the covenant of God with Abraham, that they're going to go to Egypt, can be fulfilled without bowing down to Yosef. The bowing down for Yosef is something he looked forward, and it doesn't make sense that it's part of the whole promise of going down to Egypt. And the Rebbe says, there is an idea of uniqueness of Yosef. I'm going to share it because to me this is a very, very powerful point. I'm going to share it the way I understand it without proper preparation. There is a very distinct difference between Yosef and his brothers. And that difference played out that the brothers were shepherds. You know what's unique about shepherds? Shepherds are removed from the universe. Shepherds are not being tested in the continuous tests that each one of us faces all day long. That's why the fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, chose to be shepherds. Shepherds, they go out in nature and they enjoy godliness. They see God in action when they see a spring of water, when they see plants, when they see the flowers bloom, when they see the animals, how they walk together. It makes them only wonder about God's miracles and God's wondrous creativity. Yosef was unique. He wasn't a shepherd. Yosef stayed home. He studied Torah, and then he was out in the world doing business. He was at the stock market. He was on a party every night. He was interacting with the community. Yet he remained holy. The only one that the Torah refers to as tzaddik is Yosef. Yosef tzaddik, not Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, not David, not Moshe. Tzaddik, meaning that he conducted himself the way God wanted, even though he had many opportunities to misbehave. He could have become an Egyptian, but yet everybody knew he's the Hebrew. Yosef Ivri. Ivi lanu eved ivri. When the wife of Potiphar is blaming him, she calls him the Hebrew man. He was not shy. He had a big chai necklace, and he wasn't hiding it inside the shirt. And at the same time, he was going doing business. He was inviting people over to his house. He was living in this universe. Yaakov, when he heard of the dream that they will bow down to him, it means that he will reign king, meaning that he will impact them or influence them in a way that they can interact with the universe and remain steadfast in their connection to God. And that's the purpose of going down to Egypt. The Jewish people had to go down to Egypt before they received the Torah, because the purpose of the Torah is to help us be kind-hearted, holy people among other nations, among other people. So we need to learn to interact with other people and not remain as shepherds. And that's why Yosef is the only one who can affect the brothers in such a way. By serving as an example, he actually, and therefore the Torah calls us Noeg Katzon Yosef. Yosef is the shepherd of the Jewish people, not then when he was alive, but for the rest of the history. Why? Because he taught us a very powerful lesson that you don't have to be a shepherd to be connected to God. You can be doing business and connect with people and live in a neighborhood where people may not be behaving properly. We still stick to the way God wants, the values God wanted us to live by. And in that way, Yaakov was looking forward for them to bow down, because once they bow down, they will subjugate themselves to him. And that's the purpose of the exile in Egypt. And that's the only way for the Torah should be given. Only then it can be given. And that's why, that's the idea of looking forward to it. We'll conclude.
Anyone else tzaddik after Yosef?
No.
But only Noah and Yosef.
Noach ish tzaddik, but we call him Noach. We don't call him Noach tzaddik. No. The only Yosef is tzaddik. I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah, and we'll meet again next week, God willing, Be'ezrat Hashem.